Hello. I don't know who else going to be watching this, but this is Leslie's opinion on YouTube. We're going to be talking about the no police protest today, which I did go to. So, uh, it was actually pretty cool. Um, it didn't exactly start when I thought it would start, but uh, yeah, it was cool because I was actually hoping to be there early enough to do the walk down the street to Douglas and Broadway, but I didn't make it in time. But that's all right. I was able to be at the protest, which was on Douglas. Uh, and I was one of the ones that honked and gave thumbs up and waved at people as I was looking for a parking spot as well. I ended up parking over by the Hyatt, not in the Hyatt parking lot itself, but uh, like that big old huge parking spot lot right next to the library where the library is, and then where the Hyatt place is, there's that big old huge parking space right there. I parked there. So uh, and then I walked over. I got a card, and I ended up getting a sign that I still have. Um, but uh, my I seen at least one person there that I knew. Um, I ended up bumping into a couple of people that are running for mayor. Um, so because they are running for mayor, or not mayor, but since they are running for city council and they were at the No Kings protest, and I was standing right next to them. Probably going to check out a few more things about each one of them, but I'll probably be voting for them because I don't like Trump. He shouldn't be in office. There's a whole bunch of reasons that he shouldn't be in office. Um, and yes, at the moment, my podcasts are kind of dry since I'm kind of new at this. Uh, they'll probably be dry for a while, but and I'm not looking for uh, any actual followers. I mean, I had one person from Wales that watched me a couple weeks ago, and I haven't been very faithful with having these podcasts at the same time I said I would on Fridays or Saturdays. It just happened to be Saturday, and my brother was doing a podcast, and it reminded me I need to do one because I said I would do one either on Fridays or Saturdays. Um, the No Kings protest was actually global. There were other countries that were joining the U.S. in the No Kings protest simply because they just got through claiming their independence and getting it to where they could actually vote somebody into office in their country. So, yeah. We actually had a pretty wild week. Well, not really wild. Just been going to work and going to school. So, um, there's a lot of things that Trump has been doing that has been illegal. Um, but they're letting him get away with it. Uh, according to something I got on my news feed on Facebook, there was it said No Kings rallies across America tops 7 million, the largest in U.S. history. Now, I don't know if that's true or not because I'm not a real big history buff. So, I honestly wouldn't know. But I do know from what I've seen on the news today and from what I heard from other people that I know that live in other states and cities that they noticed that there was marches and protests today. They didn't know what it was about, some of them, but they did acknowledge the fact that there was a protest going on. So I told them and tried telling them what was going on, and I told them, I said, go up to it. Only thing you're going to see is a whole bunch of signs saying no kings, and a whole bunch of other stuff. So yeah. That's kind of funny though. Dude is doing positive stuff in other countries, but the country that he's in charge of, that he's over, he is like taking a big, huge shit on. So, I don't know. I still don't like the man. He had said one time during, I think it was his inauguration, his second inauguration, he pointed to all the news cameras and all the news media outlets that were in the room and the Democrats. And he said that he could find the cure to cancer and it wouldn't be enough. And I'm an independent. And for me, that particular statement about him is true because he might find a cure for something, but it would be at a very high cost to the people that have the disease that he would have a cure for, because there's all different types of cancers and there's not one particular thing you can use to cure all of them. So even if he did, it still wouldn't matter. And yes, I'm tired. I've had a very long day. Um, Went to work, did a little bit of schoolwork online, and then went to the No Kings protest, and then I've been saving up some paychecks. So after I got a couple paychecks saved up, I went out and got a few things done that I really needed to. But uh, and I don't know why, but for some odd reason, um, I'm being led into getting into politics a little bit more. I don't know where it's coming from, but it's in there somewhere. And I'm too late to run for anything now, but I think I'm going to run for city council in 2027. I've got a whole bunch of stuff telling me yes, and on the other side, I got a whole bunch of stuff telling me no. So, uh, and it doesn't seem to matter what anybody says. If I feel like I want to do something, then I will try it. I mean, hell, I was working at Amazon, the part-time facility, and decided to change over to the full-time facility just to see what it was like, and I ended up getting fired. So it's like, now I know how things work. But yeah, there have been people, as far as the No Kings protest and Trump, There have been people that have asked if why we don't choose one thing to protest about. Well, because of the fact that Trump is not only going after one specific thing, he's going after several things. But the biggest, I would have to say, if you were to choose just the one thing to go for or protest against, it would probably be democracy, period, because he's affecting all of it. He is, one person on another podcast said that he is actively trying to get it to where he can run for a third term or change the laws to make it to where he can run for a third term. The only sad part about that is that if he tries to get that done, he's going to try to make it to where he's the only one that can do that. Because he's already said that if he were to run for a third term or open it up for a third term, Obama would actually jump in the ring with him against him. And Obama was way more popular than Trump could ever even think about. So, and as far as the Republicans saying that this stuff is what happened from previous administrations, the only sad part about that is this time he is the only president in history that has actually signed as many executive orders as he has, just to make it to where what he wants comes into law much quicker. Whereas most presidents usually take most things through Congress, like House and Senate and all the rest of that stuff, to where the people decide, but he's not trying to let the people decide. He's trying to make it to where he's the only one that can make those choices. So I do believe that is a good portion of what most people are talking about as far as no kings, because he hasn't ran anything through Congress. Everything he's been doing, he's been making choices on his own. I mean, he might sit in that big old huge ass room and have a whole bunch of people around him talking and stuff, but he's the only one, but he doesn't actually let anybody know what's going on. And there are 3 separate things. You got the House, the Senate, and the White House, and then you got the highest court in the land. And right now, most of them are Trump appointees, and most of them are in his pocket. So if he says jump, they say how high. So far, that's the way it's been. I mean, anything that's came from the Supreme Court ever since he's gotten in there, they've pretty much let him get away with whatever the hell he wants to do. So, and I would start saying all the stuff that he's done that is illegal, but that's a pretty long list of stuff. Because it started when he got sworn in as president. He did not put his hand on the Bible. And that has been a tradition for, God, a long time, through several presidencies. Every president has put their hand on the Bible and swore an oath to do what presidents swear to do. And he did not put his hand on the Bible. The only sad part about it is is the one that was holding the Bible was his wife, Melania. Because he seems to have a crush on his daughter, I figure if his daughter was holding the Bible, he probably would have had his hands all over that thing. If you can catch on to that by yourself. And yes, most of the stuff that he's doing is to distract from the Epstein files because he knows he's in it. And I have actually watched a lot of different celebrities on different shows say that they probably are in the Epstein files in one way or another. Hell, there's some guy overseas that's high up rank, like in Europe or some shit, and he's actually stepping down from different stuff that he's over because of the fact that he is in the Epstein files. So, I mean, there's a way to be adult about it, and then there's a way to be a child about it, and Trump's being the child. He's throwing a his secret because he doesn't want anybody to find out what's actually going on in the Epstein files. And then that chick Pam Bondi, oh my God, I actually got to see her, watch her, I think it was this week or last week, in the going in front of the one of the committees, and I actually watched that. She didn't answer any questions at all, and most of them were general questions that you could answer at least a yes or a no to. Even if you didn't give a description, you could still say yes or no to them. And instead of just plain and simply answering them, she decides to attack people. And then you have that one blonde thing that talks to everybody, Carolyn, whatever, Levitt, I don't know. Man, I cannot stand her. Every time I see her and she opens up her mouth, only thing I want to do is bend her over my knee and whoop the snot out of her. Because from what I've been told, she's in her early 20s and she talks as though she has a clue, and she doesn't. And then you got that one chick, well, not Christy Nome. That I think that's the one that they reported that shot a dog, doing Homeland Security stuff, and I've seen her all over the news, sitting there helping ICE agents deport people and holding guns and shit. And then whenever she holds a gun, somehow the tip of the gun, the end that shoots out the bullet, ends up being pointed at a military member's head or ICE agent's head or whatever. And there's actually a video that I caught today of because our military doesn't really have anything to do. The troops that Trump keeps sending everywhere, they don't actually have anything to do because everything's peaceful. So they start dancing to different types of music. And it's a video. Yeah, well, I can't really go to bed quite yet. I still got a few things to do, but since I do a podcast every week, I figured I'd get on here and do a podcast. Mainly about the No Kings protest. But Well, just about everything I've said, I've either heard or read somewhere this week, or this last week, I should say. I get it randomly from different places, and I don't write none of it down. I just try to remember it. So it's all stuff that's happened this last week, but I read and watch a lot of the news to try to keep up with stuff because people I know don't know what's going on. And so whenever we start having conversations about stuff, I have to let them know that, this is actually what's going on. And a lot of them are surprised at what's going on. But I know quite a few people that don't know what's going on because they don't pay attention to politics. And I've told them numerous times, I'm like, the only reason I'm even paying attention to the political anything is because Trump is in there. And because I'm not a Trump person, I got to keep track of what this dude is doing because he messed up a lot of stuff last time he was in office. And so I'm not expecting anything different, but I'm also not going to just watch whatever it is that he does happen. Yeah. So there were things that Biden did that were okay. And then again, there were other things that Biden did that weren't okay. As far as the differences between Trump and Biden, I didn't like Trump before he became president. So because of the fact that I'm an independent, there isn't, when it comes to either side, the only thing I don't like about the Republican Party right now is Trump. There are things that Republicans say and do that I agree with, and there are things that Democrats say and do that I agree with. Every president and administration that's been in the White House up to this point, I've had agreements with and I've had disagreements with. Whether it be the president themselves or whether it be the administration behind the president, because sometimes they have differences of opinion. So, in my opinion, to me, Iraq would have been better than Trump in the White House. I mean, I'm in a state that is mostly Republican, so most of the things that were up and down the ballot were Republican judges and all the rest of this. And because there was nothing other than Republicans, every line that there was after the president and vice president and a couple of judges that were independents, I ended up putting other, and then I ended up putting your dog in the other slot where the little line is next to other. I ended up putting your dog, your baby. I ended up putting anything but Trump. So, in my opinion, to me, I don't care what anybody says. To me, anything is better than Trump. Anything is better than authoritarianism. That's just the way I am. But so if anybody were to ask me the same question that you asked me, in my mind, yes, Biden being in the White House was better than Trump by a long shot, because I didn't like it when he won the election in 2016. So, yeah. And there's not a whole hell of a lot, if anything, that anybody would be able to say or do that would get me to ride with anything that Trump has done, especially in the country where he actually is the top official. I mean, he's done things over in other countries that are good, but he hasn't done anything here, in my opinion, that's good. So, and a lot of stuff that he has done has affected myself, people that I know, people that I'm related to, and some don't understand that what he has done and what he is going to do is going to affect them, whether they're Democrat or Republican. So, yeah, to answer your question again, yes, I honestly believe Biden was better than Trump. Now, like I said, there are things that I don't agree with that Biden did while he was in the White House. But there's nothing that Trump has ever done that I could ever agree with, whether he was president or beforehand. I've never liked the man to begin with, so he could eat shit and die for all I care, honestly. That all depends, because we use immigrants in our farms. We use immigrants in some of the jobs that U.S. citizens will not do, whether they live on the streets or not. And I do believe that if they are an illegal immigrant and they're coming over our border, that they should get here legally. And if they come across the border, they should be able to have court hearings held to gain citizenship. Now, what I'm saying as far as that goes is I wish sometimes people would think about this. When they come over, they don't get a whole lot of benefits at all, if they get anything. They come over and they work. Your paycheck and their paycheck, and I think I said this on a previous podcast, your check and their check. You both get Social Security taken out. You both get taxes taken out. At the end of the year, you get to go claim your taxes. They do not. Their taxes go to something else. They cannot get the medical stuff. They cannot go file for Social Security. They can't do none of that stuff. All that stuff gets rolled back up into the government. So there's a difference between you and the immigrant. They're over here on work visas. Their only thing here is to do work. They send a little bit of that stuff home to help out with things that they cannot get in their own countries, like food and shelter and all the rest of that stuff, because of how their governments are working. And in those other governments, yes, they are fighting for different things that are going on. But it has been proven more times than not that the same exact job thing that the immigrants are doing when they do get over here, homeless people will not do those jobs either, because every American says that if they did the same job an immigrant did, they'd have to get more pay and benefits and all the rest of that, and they wouldn't want to work the same hours and everything else. And I'm saying you might have an opinion about some of the immigrants that come over here, but the ones that do come over here on work visas, they're not really illegal immigrants. They're over here on work visas. They're only here long enough to work, pick our food, do whatever else immigrants do when they come over here on work visas, and then they have to go back to wherever the hell it is they came from, unless they start the process of becoming legal citizens, which a lot of them do try to do when they start working over here. But I can guarantee that there's not as many Americans that are willing to do the exact same jobs with the exact same pay, working from sun up to sundown in the exact same conditions, rain, sleet, snow, hail, whatever, to do those jobs, as there are immigrants that are willing to come over here and do those exact same jobs. But I wouldn't necessarily say it's an invasion on the southern border, because everybody's worried about the southern border, but we do have a northern border too. And people cross that every day too. But everybody's so worried about people coming into the southern border. So if you're going to cry, to me, my point of view, if you're going to cry about the southern border, you might as well cry about the northern border, because that's the same. They're coming over the exact same way. And truth be told, there are some Americans that are going back over both southern and northern borders to get out of our country. And that was before. That's been just as long as people coming over into our country. So the only difference is, well, I don't know a whole lot of the differences. But I do believe that the way it was starting to work out during the Biden administration, towards the end of it, was actually getting a little bit better. It may not have been a cure for most of it, but sitting there sending a whole bunch of people that you think are illegal immigrants back overseas just because they don't look like you, I don't believe that's a solution either. Actually, that is a popular misconception, because I have seen countless documentaries about that, and American workers, as far as the difference between Americans doing jobs and immigrants doing the jobs that they do, in that aspect, Americans are lazy. And no, they would not adjust, because after a few hours, and you're talking about get paid a fair wage. Okay, a fair wage. Everybody says a fair wage is $15 an hour or more. Now, take into consideration that prices are already going up. Everybody's crying about the price of eggs, for instance. You raise up fair wage to be $15 an hour for Americans working the same job as immigrants are. And instead of making whatever it is immigrants are making, they're making $15 an hour. which in turn is going to raise the cost of the stuff that you buy at the grocery store by more than just a few cents. It's going to raise it more, like $1 or $2. So instead of, I think the last time I went to the store this last week, the price of some eggs was like $6 or some shit. The cost of eggs would go up to damn near probably $5 or $6, and then on top of that, you have uh, uh, Medicare, Medicaid, and all the other stuff that comes out of immigrants' paychecks. Well, immigrants don't take it. Immigrants can't take advantage of that because they're not legal. But if you did that with U.S. workers and they are legal, and you have to include that, then that raises up the cost a whole lot more. So you're saying that you'd much rather pay a higher cost at the grocery store for letting American workers adjust, which they won't, and getting paid a fair wage, which that would be the reason that the cost would go up, than letting immigrants come over here on work visas to do the same exact job from sunup to sundown and not reaping any of the benefits that comes on their paycheck. Keep in mind, you're trying to say that hiring American workers for $15 an hour would be much better than the U.S. making about, I think it was $9 billion or $9 trillion off of immigrants working because they can't collect the taxes that are taken out of their paychecks when they get paid for doing the same thing, for doing immigrant work. Yeah, I actually looked a lot of that stuff up. So for people that think that immigrants actually benefit from working, the only thing they benefit from is actually getting money. They can't reap any of the Medicare, Medicaid, or any of the other taxes that come out of that. That rolls back up into the government. That's why quite a few of us are wondering why, if the government is making so much money off this, why we don't have enough money to cover all the things that we need to cover. Something's not right there. And it's not just immigrants. So because I actually got to see, because I have a couple friends that are from overseas. One has been here on a green card since he was 5, and I've actually got to see it. He has to renew it every 5 years or so. And I have another friend that's over here from Nigeria, and he's here off of a school visa. He has to renew that every so often. And it's not as easy as a lot of people think, because they have to have the money. They have to have things done by a certain time. There's a whole bunch that goes into it. And somebody showed me the website that was being used when Biden came out of office before Trump got in there. Somebody showed me the website that was being used, and I don't know what was being used before. But if that website, if they were saying that that website was a lot easier, then it was cutting down on the time that people could actually use to become legal citizens. Yeah, you're right. That's why they have the immigrants doing it. Because whenever the immigrants make the money to do so, they send that money back to their country through the country's money, whatever. Because in a lot of places, the American dollar is more than their dollar. So if they were to send $5 back home, that buys their family, and most families in other countries live in the same house generations over. So that buys food, clothes, rent. That buys a lot of things in just 1 month, if that. Because I've actually gotten to know quite a few people that are from other countries, and I've actually talked to them. It's 20. I think it was 20 years ago. I was working for a part-time place. You know, one of those places that send you. Hey, one of those places that send you to different places every day to earn money and stuff. Well, I was working in a warehouse, and I actually got to have a conversation with. I think she was a Mexican or Puerto Rican or something. But we were talking, and she was saying exactly what she used the money for. And I asked her, I said, so how you're talking about all this stuff, but how much does this cost? And she was like, well, the American dollar here is so much money over there. And I'm like, okay, so how much is rent over there? How much is this? How much is that? You know, just as a general question. And she told me, and I'm like, okay, cool. You're just feeding your family. So it may not be that much for us over here, but for people from other countries that are trying to escape different things, it makes a world of difference. Yeah, I know. They don't put when I did the research, for some odd reason, when they say that the US soaks up the tax money that the immigrants get for working here, it stops. So they don't give an explanation as to where the money goes. But we're supposed to have a surplus of so many hundreds of thousands of millions of dollars to be going towards stuff that we need for this country, but yet it's not being used. And it doesn't matter whether they're Democrat or Republican, somehow this money's not being used the way it needs to be. Somebody's pockets are deep, one or both sides. That's why I like to say that I'm an independent, because I mean, where the hell is all this shit going to if immigrants are not allowed to use this stuff and it's going to the government? Where the fuck is it going? Who in the fuck is using it? Whose pockets is it going into? Because it sure as hell ain't going into our pockets. Detroit and Flint, as far as I know about either one of those, they are up in Michigan, and Michigan makes a lot of cars. So, and because there's a lot of manufacturing jobs that have left the US, and a lot of those are car manufacturing jobs. So, across between that and I think it's the water system up there, and there's something else up there that's not quite what it's supposed to be. It's been declining steadily. So because of the fact that I've been here in Wichita, Kansas most of my life, and a lot of this stuff I've researched, I don't know specific things about specific states too much. I know I have limited information on all the different states, but I'm going to say I'm assuming most of that is because manufacturing went overseas to cut production costs. Yeah. Yeah. The I understand about trickle down economics, but which he are you referring to? Because I can. I can safely say that watching and keeping up with the news, it does, but there's enough of it there to where it shouldn't just be keeping us thriving. Because if we were thriving that well, we wouldn't be having such a major homeless problem. We wouldn't be having such a major problem with feeding people in the country. There's just a lot of things that we would actually have the money to do to help out the people that we do have living here. Well, that kind of, I guess that could kind of depend on how you look at it, because other countries, their dollar is not as much as the US dollar, I'm guessing. I've been told by a few people. So when they send like $5, it can equal way more than that in another country. So them sending money home to help out their families, it takes a lot less for them to send money home to help out their families than it does for them to survive here. Plus the fact that most of the immigration population that we do have that are over here doing work, work visas and stuff, they they don't live in the best of conditions. I mean, you be lucky, they be lucky, I should say, if they have a solid concrete roof over their head with a uh, maybe inch to 2 inch piece of foam that they lay on top of a uh, flat spring metal bed, and some of them is even on the floor, and some of them don't even get that. Some of them get a tent, a big old huge tent that they have bunk beds in, and uh, it's almost, if you ever watched any military movies and you've seen how they have the military bunks set up, like right next to each other, damn near. If you get up, you're sitting there kissing the next person sleeping next to you. And then they don't have beds, they don't have little chest or whatever at the end of the beds. Whatever they come with, they sit there and they either throw underneath the bed if they're laying on the floor, they throw on one of the stumps on the top bunk. So it's not like they have a whole lot. The clothes on their back and maybe another set of clothes in the bags that they carry with them. But they're woken up before the crack of dawn. That way, they can. They may not even be able to take showers. They eat slop. They go out to the field like right as the sun is coming up to where they can actually see. They might get out there earlier and have the lights on so they can start picking or working before the lights come up, and then they work either when the sun goes down or right after the sun goes down. So they work long hours and they're not allowed to leave the fields. They have to do everything, work through every condition. So, I mean, if you think about it, it's not that much different than slavery. That a lot of times, whenever I think about it down to that fact, that's about how I think about it. Is that it's not that much different than slavery. Excuse me. Honestly, I don't know. Me personally, the same thing that you were bringing up about having Americans work, doing the same thing the immigrants were doing, I wouldn't have a problem with that. If we had enough Americans that wouldn't mind working, doing the exact same thing with the exact same conditions, getting the exact same pay as the immigrants were. But since that's not going to happen, I hardly ever bring that up. I swear to God, you tell people that you're doing a podcast, and the only thing they want to do is interrupt. But me personally, uh, if I had my way or my choice, everybody that is homeless would be gathered up and taken to all these farms and given the opportunity to work in them fields. Since they're homeless anyway, whatever amount the immigrants are making, the homeless shouldn't have a problem working the fields getting that pay. Living in the same rooms, sleeping on the beds, having hot plates to cook their food in or whatever. In a way, to me, that would actually solve the homeless situation in my head. And it would also give the homeless another skill set to get a job or to keep a job. So to me, making people work, to me, I guess you could say making people do stuff that you don't want to do or wouldn't do, you shouldn't be willing to force somebody to do something that you wouldn't do, I guess. Because from some of the movies I've seen from back in the slave days, most of it was horrible, beyond horrible, in my opinion. It was white people that didn't want to do jobs on their own, like going out and picking cotton or whatever else. So they'd have other people do it. And because there was a massive slave trade going on from Africa, other countries were getting slaves too. So, I mean, the slave thing should never have happened, whether it was the one here in the US or the one back in Egypt or anywhere else. If people are willing to come and help you, then there shouldn't be a problem. Immigrants that come here on work visas, I'm going to assume, is their way of wanting to be a part of our economy. In exchange, they get a little bit of money to help out with their families, which they do send to their families when they do get it. But they also use the rest of it to save up to start making life better here so they can start maybe bringing their family over here so they don't have to keep going back and forth. it shouldn't be to the point to where, hey, you go do this for me simply because I don't want to do it. You do it. Believe it or not, I watch a lot of documentaries because me being a part of the Wichita public school system, I think in my particular circumstance, it was a cross between both the teachers or the school system and my parents, for the reason that there's a lot of stuff I don't know, because I was classified when I was in elementary school as learning disabled, or having a learning disability. I'm slow. But at the same time, when I would take homework home, me getting my education wasn't exactly at the top of my parents' list of things I needed to do. So homework might have gotten done before I went to bed. Maybe. So there's a lot of stuff, especially ever since the internet came around and YouTube and things like that. I have been watching documentaries on lots of different stuff. And then if I see or hear something in a documentary that I think I might need a little bit more of an explanation about, I'll go look it up and figure out the truth about stuff. And so I'm not the smartest person by no means, but I do believe that I get enough information to make informed decisions about some of the stuff that I do. Even if other people don't agree with it, I still have my own opinion and my own thoughts and my own way of thinking to make it to where I reach the conclusions that I come to. And I don't know about any other country because I have never been to another country, but as far as I know, here in America, you're allowed to have your own opinion and people are allowed to disagree with you as long as it doesn't turn violent. And I'm not a violent person. I mean, I'm not into drama. I don't like drama. I won't get involved in drama. I stay away from drama. With the exception of the No Kings protest, and believe it or not, even though I went to the No Kings protest, I didn't stay very long. One, because I had to work. But two, I'm not really a people person. I mean, that's probably one of the reasons I'm thinking I want to run for city council, but I'm not sure if I actually want to run for city council, because a lot of times that stuff leads to debates, and I'm not sure that I'm really good at debating or talking too much. I mean, for some odd reason, I just started getting comfortable doing podcasts like about a year or two ago. And I think that's just because in my brain, I'm speaking to a computer because I can't actually see the people that I'm talking to. I mean, I see text messages and stuff like that, but you can't tell who's on the other end of that, where they are, what they're doing. It could be somebody living right next to you, and you never know because people don't share that shit. I'm one of them. So, But yeah. Well, it's been an hour. I think I've done a pretty good job of having another podcast. So I'm hoping to do this again next week at the same time. Well, hopefully about 9 o'clock instead of 10 or something. But my podcast is called Leslie's Opinion. Um, if you liked what we talk about, or you like what you heard after the fact and you want to share it, or even if you didn't like what you heard and you still want to share it to criticize me, go on ahead and share it. I don't care. Um, yeah, I try to keep that on all the time. But yeah, I'm going to call it a night. Uh, thanks to the ones that showed up. Thanks to the one that actually talked to me. Last time I was on here, it was somebody clear from Wales. Um, but I will talk to y'all later. This is Leslie's Opinion, and have a great night. You too. Talk to you later. Bye.